Brown. I am joined today by John Wolf. While
Hello.
he's the Hi John, he's the author of like 20 other stories. He sold us heebie-jeebies for uh, our upcoming masterpiece of what I like to call holiday leftovers, and
Who doesn't love holiday leftovers?
that's the point.
There's so many that are just better the next day.
I uh, I mean, I remember hearing a story about the Last Supper, man. They took the after it was done, they took a couple slabs of bread, threw some lamb in between it, dipped it into the wine, and oh my God, a little olive oil in there, and it was just I was told it was heavenly.
If they had
Um,
brought tzatziki sauce, it would have been a hit.
yeah, well, I
Yeah,
understood that that if you weren't careful, it'd come up again in 3 days.
that
But
is true. It will rise again.
yeah, it will. But let's see. I turned on the chat so we can see it, and that is um, good morning. Something happened. I can't see the names of my Facebook users, but
It's a mystery.
oh, somebody's here but doesn't
Oh,
know how to join the video.
hello, Robin.
Well, I'm going to talk for a second, John.
Oh, okay. Well,
Uh,
I like to talk. Talking is what I do best. Some people say it's the only thing I really do well. But yeah, no. I mean, first off, I just want to say thanks for having me, and thanks for giving my story a home. I always say, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like my stories are like orphans. I have to find them a home, find them a nice parent to take them in. And I'm always happy when somebody gives them a shot and gives them a chance. But yeah, and I'm excited for this anthology. I reprint anthologies are kind of fun, and I've always thought they're actually kind of a nice resource for writers as well.
Here, let
Because,
me pause you for a
oh
second.
yeah, sure.
Hey, the person that was supposed to be here that says I'm here, but I don't know how to log in. Uh, Send me an email and I'll send you the link again because it just lists you as Facebook user. Oh, Michael Hanson. Okay, Michael, check your email. John, go back to being entertaining.
I'll just vamp here on stage for a bit. No, I just, as a writer, I really like reprint anthologies because, not only do I like reading stories in general, but going in the back and seeing where they were submitted before, or like just any good bio page on an author is really helpful, I think, for a writer because then you can go through and you can kind of, check those other markets. You're like, I like this story, or I have a story like this one. Where was this previously published? And then you can go see if those are some, alternative markets for you as well. Speaking of alternative holidays.
Well, that's a good, what you talked about was something we talked about yesterday on at Oricon, and that was that we had a young lady that was breaking into her writing thing, and she was all about how do I find the right publisher for me. Um, and the first rule is, are they willing to pay you?
Yeah.
And then after that, it's go read a couple of their books, go online and see who's in their books. If you know any of those people, uh, ask them because, okay,
We'll get you in here, Michael.
okay, yeah, we got him going. I sent him the link, and hopefully, if it doesn't get him in, it will be a bad day. Um, so
Bad day at BlackRock.
the beautiful thing about this being called holiday leftovers is we got the holidays coming up.
That we
And
do.
do you have any work that's out that you want to plug for the Black Friday?
Yeah, I have another story that just came out in an anthology called Strange Eons, 2022 Hopeful Monsters. I know that's a mouthful, but that's its title. and it's actually it's a Lovecraft anthology. So I was very tickled about that because it's like, oh, I have a Lovecraft mythos story. It's out there now. Stephen King and I are technically in the same boat. He's up in first class and I'm down in steerage, but it is the same boat. We both have Lovecraft stories now. And so that's one anthology y'all can check out. There it is. Thank you, Isabella. And then I have another one coming out soon from Redwood Press that's called Superstition. The anthology is called Superstition, and my story of the darkness on the rails will be out in that soon, and people can check that out when it's out. And that's from Redwood Press. If you want to give them a follow on Facebook or Twitter too. And I'm really excited about that one because I think that is one of my longest stories, and I I would say I learned. You're always learning as a writer. Hopefully you are. But that was one of the first stories where I kind of set out with a specific intention, and it got picked up, and I wasn't expecting it to, but this business has ways of surprising you, and yeah, I hope people like that one too.
Well, the fun part about having a plan is I find that my best stories and the easiest to write are the ones that I've been thinking about for a long time, where they've just been festering, so to speak. I have a story that's actually in this book, but don't waste your time trying to figure out which one, because I've never written under my own. I haven't written under my own name in 10 years.
Ooh, I like a good mystery. I'll find out.
But when you get a chance, you're going to get the book today.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, you are, yeah. And the other writers. I like to do what we call a version check, as long as we're talking about press. And that is, so many people touch the story and it gets swapped back and forth so many times. And sometimes changes are talked about in an email. Sometimes they're in a markup. And so it is so easy to lose track of the details of a story, that I will send out not a proof copy, but a version check that says, hey, tell me this. Have I got the right version of your bio? Have I got the right version of your story? Not asking you to go give it a final proof. Just tell me if I've got the right file. Things like that. Because I can tell you, there is nothing worse than publishing with a small press that you send in your story. They tell you it's edited, and then they put it in the book and publish it, and you look and say,
yeah,
hey,
that stinks. Yeah, I've had that happen more than a couple times. When first instance I can remember, it is also what spurred me on to actually become a prose editor for a while. It was my college's literary journal, the Salmon Creek Journal, at Washington State University, Vancouver. And I got a story, two stories in an anthology my freshman year, and my last name is Wolf, and everybody seems to want to misspell that last name. I've had it Wolff, like Tobias. I've had it Wolfe, and I've even one time somebody misspelled it by going Wulffe, and it's like, you're just making more work for yourself. Stop it. And the first time I got published in the Salmon Creek Journal, they misspelled my last name, and it was like, you know what? I'm going to go edit it for next year's edition. And so I applied for the editor job, the prose editor job, and got it, mainly just out of spite. Where it's like, I don't want, if I want my last name to be correct, I'm going to have to do it myself.
well, as a fellow named Brown, speaking to a fellow named Wolf, I found I won awards for the Northwest Society of Professional Journalism for like 6 years in a row. Well, I was always second or third. in my category. And the year I won my category, they misspelled my name.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, my name is Brown. How do you misspell?
Let
Well,
me guess.
I know how you misspell Brown. You leave out the O. But
They abbreviated your last name?
yeah, it was.
Grin.
I mean, and this
Rob
is
Grin.
the Northwest Society of Professional Journalism. You know what journalism? Always spell the name right. What's your name? Jones. How do you spell that?
Maybe the editors were colorblind. I like that. That's good.
I found it humorous. Now, so you've got some books coming up you want people to be remembering. So does BQ Press. It has been. Oh, there we go. Good morning, Michael.
Now we're the Three Stooges. We're not just a two-man act. It's perfect.
Okay, so we can stop our Abbott and Costello routine.
Hi, Michael.
Oh no, we can't hear you. And
sorry,
but
it's
can we
cutting
hear
in
you
and out.
now? Well, while he's getting there, Michael, I'm going to let you work in peace. And John, I hereby appoint you Michael Monitor to tell him when he gets heard.
Okay, I'm on it.
Now, the BQ Press, we've been on a roll lately. We've got a couple of 3 books I'd like people to remember. And one of them is a book that I put out because I wanted to. I had no visions of big money. And it's called The Protest Diaries. And where that comes from is, those of you who know me know that I'm a liberal sumbitch. I still got the shoes that got bear mace all over them, and a cup full of rubber bullets, and a shield from the Portland riots, as they like to call them. I like to call them the Stand Up for America, Black Lives Matter Portland protests outside the courthouse. Where if I read the official versions of it, the crowd got unruly at 1:00 in the morning, and they had to deploy tear gas. And based on my camera feed at the time, at 11:15, while people were dancing in the streets, me being one of them, a whole line full of dark coated men in body armor double timed it out of the courthouse, lined up, and started launching tear gas into the crowd. And me and my leaf blower had fun. So anyway, I got to participate in a few protests. I got to see what was happening on the ground, got to see what the government was saying about it. And I came to the realization that there's a book that needs to be written here. And so got together with all my good buddies, and he's probably, I'm going to bet Michael is on an Apple, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You might find that shifting to Chrome, if you can, will help your voice show up on time. So anyway, as I was saying before my delayed interruption by Michael, but we will get to talk about Michael's story, because he is in Holiday Leftovers. Holiday Leftovers is going to be a fun book. It's more the standard B-Cube style of book than was Alternative Holidays. Alternative Holidays is really a great horror book. It's really dark. It's really well written, but it's not got that quirky taste that B-Cube Press likes. So I grabbed up the Leftovers, and of that, and we put them together, including John, and we have a far quirkier, more fun book, or very fun book. I won't say more fun because you can't. Because if it's your thing, Alternative Holidays was fun.
It's more funner.
Do what?
It's more funner, you know.
Yeah, we got a more fun
as a
book.
writer, I know English good, and it's more funner, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning, Robert.
Well, afternoon, almost evening here.
Oh,
Oh, heck, you must be somewhere else.
I'm more of a
I'm in
night
Britain.
person anyway.
In Devon, down in the southwest corner of Britain.
Okay, well, here, let me finish my sales pitch while you remind me. You get your. Okay. Oh, there's Michael. He's backstage. You there, Michael?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. That's usually why we encourage our folks to get in there so that, and I'm just going to start warning people. If you're using Apple, Safari delays you.
Yeah.
So the only thing I was going to say is as we move into the holiday season and you're doing your book buying right now, we will have holiday leftovers with these three gentlemen out ready to buy probably in a couple weeks here. So it'll be ready by Black Friday. And we have got the Protest Diaries, which is just a wonderful set of stories about protests, essays, stories, poems. And then we have Alternative Holidays, which is a really well-crafted horror book as far as horror goes, where we had Alicia Hilton help edit it, and Alicia is a really great editor and a great writer. She's actually in this book. And then the one I'm proudest of is our alternative or post-Roe alternatives. Back when the Supreme Court decided to turn fascist for funding, I think it was one of the female justice that voted for this, Coney Barrett. She got a $2 million book deal as soon as she cast this vote. So I guess we know what the cost of a Supreme Court's justice's integrity is, $2 million. You know, you realize if I could win this Powerball that's up to almost $2 billion, I could change the world just by buying Supreme Court justices' votes.
Well, there's a plan. There you go.
Do what?
Well, there's a plan. You're all good
There's
to
a
go.
plan, yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I'm firmly believe that I could probably, if I'm willing to spend the whole $2 billion, I could get the Washington D.C. law that made it against the Constitution for a city to try and keep its citizens safe. Of course, God, I can't remember that ruling, and I curse it at least once a month. So, yeah. Now, Robert, I am honored to have you in this book. Tell
That's
us
very nice
about
to say
your
so.
story. If you
Did you ask me a question? I missed that.
do what?
You said you're honoured to have me in the book, and I'm delighted to hear
Yeah,
that.
I'm glad to have you in the book. Give us a real brief reminder what your story's about.
What is my story about? It's about a Christmas dinner where Christmas greetings are exchanged by what I've called Mejas, which are sort of online AI. They sort of take over your social media roles, and one. An old retired gentleman believes that his Christmas greetings from an old work colleague are being sent by Media, and just to sort of test it, he he's sort of rude to the phone call coming back, and it's actually a real human who takes offence. It's a nice, gentle story. It's not full of gore and guts or anything like that. It's more satire than horror as such. But I think Charles Edward Tuckett's Yuletide Message is what the very short story is called. Does it even make 2,000 words? I suspect not.
Yeah, I kind of liked that one. That was the one where who was it? The guy getting the message was told about this system that could send out very nice, realistic holiday messages.
Exactly. So that he feels the curtain's been pulled back on how the world works, and in his case, it's not actually true. It is a real human being trying to reach out and send a Christmas message.
I know that was the saddest part about that thing. Was that was what happened, because and that was pretty good. Now, Michael, tell us about your piece in the book.
Well, my story is called Booty, and it's about two demons from hell on Halloween night who managed to appear on Earth. And this is like the first time in hundreds of years that any demons at all have been allowed to appear. And they just happened to appear on Halloween night in a busy suburban street full of all kinds of trick-or-treaters. And they're shocked to see that, somehow the Lord has allowed this abomination to occur, like, all through this town. And they start discovering, what magical words they have to learn and things they have to do to get all this wonderful, delicious candy that's so much sweeter and better than, say, human flesh. And I don't want to spoil the story from that point on, but it's a great realization of them that they have to share with their buddies. So yeah, it's totally tongue-in-cheek and humorous, and no gore at all either. It's a fun thing I think anybody of any age can read. But I loved writing it. It was just a fun idea I came up with, and I hope the readers like it.
Well, as we were talking earlier, John and I, about knowing your audience, B-Cube Press audience is an audience that loves humor. They love quirky. Your story was perfectly written for them. And so I am confident that when when this book hits the stands, and it will in, like I say, a couple weeks, that I think it'll do well. It's just fun because we even get to make, being this holiday leftovers, we get to make some jokes in there. For example, here from the forward, leftovers are truly the reason for the season. From the morning after the Last Supper, where leftover lamb was placed between two slabs of bread and dipped in wine, to the modern tradition of leftover turkey being slapped between two slabs of bread. But no, we love it and we have fun with it.
Who doesn't love leftovers?
Oh God, everybody does. And besides that, with the leftovers, you're not obligated to eat Great Aunt Susan's green bean salad.
Yeah, some handle the morning after better than others. Green bean casserole the next day looking kind of rough. It's had a long night. Whereas I think stuffing or dressing that comes out just looking just as pretty as it did the first day. So
yeah, I have a sister-in-law who makes a very special Thanksgiving dressing. She adds lots of ground beef with it, and it's the most disgustingly wonderful stuff, especially as a leftover.
Disgustingly wonderful. I think I could describe a lot of my stories that way.
Now, Robert, you're in Great Britain, correct?
Correct.
So what? I mean, I don't know what I've heard weird stories about people eating blood pudding and stuff over there, but I don't know because
don't knock it.
Don't knock black pudding.
Yeah,
black pudding is wonderful. Absolutely, yeah.
What? I mean, what do y'all eat for leftovers? Or what do y'all eat for Christmas? And then what do you have for leftovers?
Oh, I think our Christmas lunch is very much like your Thanksgiving. The turkey is the traditional. A lot of people have beef. Obviously, a lot of people are moving away from meat these days. Roast potatoes, roast parsnips, red cabbage. I suppose the more sort of traditional British bits of it would be the puddings, like your heavy, suety fruit pudding, cover it in brandy, set fire to it, have it with custard cream, what have you, Yule log. I suppose you've got the sort of Germanic influence there. But yeah, I think the first course would be very familiar to an American Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, my wife's trying to convince me to go to London for Christmas because next year. Because I tell you, I have to say, as far as cities go, I have never been to a city that I loved as much as London. I don't know if you're anywhere close to London.
I used to live and work in London. I'm right down in the sort of southwest sticky out bit in Great Britain in the main island. So I know London well.
Yeah, it's just so alive, unlike Vancouver.
I
Well,
like Vancouver.
Tell me about Vancouver Christmases there or holidays, John.
Well, Vancouver, not the cool Vancouver in Canada, the Vancouver in Washington. No, not that Washington State. There's so
Now, is
many.
it still called North Portland?
I mean, depending on the day, yeah, even I call it North Portland. It's also known as Vantucky and a couple other ones, which I like Vantucky. I think that's earned. You'll never see so many Priuses and raised bed trucks with diesel trucks in one place side by side. But yeah, we household here does a pretty traditional Thanksgiving and Christmas. Turkey and dressing or stuffing, all the usual stuff. But the one thing that I think we do really well is we make a good cranberry sauce. I really like our cranberry sauce. It's cranberries and sugar, but then orange juice and orange zest, and then we put in a few glugs of 2 buck chuck red wine, cinnamon, a knob of ginger, and all that together. It just fills up the whole house. And then my family's really big on pies. We generally have at least 2 or 3 pies, and it sounds like a good idea until you've had 3 slices of 3 different types of pie on top of your turkey, and then you
With
don't want to
whipped
talk.
cream on them, right?
Depends on the pie. Our pecan pie is generally served naked, but our pumpkin pie gets the whipped cream.
Yeah.
My cousin will usually make a mixed berry and apple pie, and yeah, and then all I want to do is oh, hi Robin. Then all I want to do is just sleep after that. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to watch a bad movie, even though that's another tradition. We watch a turkey on Turkey Day. Um, I don't want to do anything. I just want to hibernate in my bed sheets and be left alone after that.
Now, what I love is Kubota or Kusha pie.
What's that?
Well, Kubota, it's a kind of a Japanese tractor, and it's a bluish gray pumpkin, and it's really good. I ran a small farm, and I could not sell these dang pumpkins or these squash for squat. Then finally, I went and I got found a recipe and a picture of the pumpkin cut open with the bright orange interior and the recipe below. And I tripled my price and sold out when I put the display. But no, Kusha is just a big, giant Mexican, or it's supposedly from Mexico, Mexican squash. But I find that pumpkin pie is a lot better when you make it with a really strong tasting, solid squash. And sometimes when they're selling pumpkins, you'll look over there and you'll see that blue-gray thing that looks like a pumpkin, but it isn't. Buy one and make the pumpkin pie out of it, or make your get some good cinnamon when you do it, but make your cinnamon bread out or your what do you call those zucchini bread out of it. Yeah, it's all sorts of fun.
So I wanted to say, if you're into acquired tastes, I got stuck on strawberry rhubarb pie as a little kid. So a lot of people don't like
rhubarb
it.
pie is. I'm right there with you. It's
Rhubarb and
it's hard to
ginger.
beat.
I got some
Okay, Robert?
rhubarb out in the garden that I ain't figured out what to do with. I figured I understand if you let it keep growing, it'll grow next year and the year after.
Is it what
And,
you've got rhubarb that you haven't worked out what to do with it?
Yeah. I don't know. I've never eaten it except for, like I say, when I'm at somebody's house and they say, you got to try this. And I
Works well with pork.
Yeah,
Does it?
everything works
Okay.
well with pork.
So yeah, I think rhubarb and pork is it's a bit left field, but I think it works. But rhubarb and ginger, crumble, cobbler, pie.
Yeah. We
all
had
lovely.
I grew up in the Midwest and every food there was bars. Hey, do you want some bars? We got coconut bars, we got chocolate peanut butter bars. Everybody has bars.
You sure you
And
didn't grow up in Wisconsin?
well, northern Indiana, there's a lot of Chicago, Minnesota, Wisconsin accents that just sort of all end up there. So you'll hear somebody say bar, then you'll hear somebody say, hey, beef. So, everybody's different. But we had like a staple for our like church basement suppers was always cream cheese rhubarb bars. And those I have been on a quixotic quest to find the recipe that most closely resembles what I had as a kid because I need them back in my life and I cannot find the right recipe. It's going to drive me mad one of these days.
But when you say bars, do you mean bars?
Yeah, BARS. They just, like basically like it's
Like a
just
chocolate
another
bar.
version of a crumble or a pie, but it's in one of those glass, cooking trays.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, like lemon squares or another one where it was chocolate peanut butter bars and stuff.
I imagined that you'd converted all foodstuffs to chocolate bars, which may explain a lot of the sort of external perspective of America from a
It also
European
explains
perspective.
the crippling rate of diabetes and gout.
There you go.
Gout, what you would only read about in a Charles Dickens novel, is now the reality.
Thinking of Soylent Green and all the different Soylent varieties, with the bars.
Hey,
Bob,
not
I've
green.
Bob, I have an impertinent appeal to make to you. I heard a rumor about a certain front cover that it got finished, and
I like front covers.
I love front covers. Yeah. What do you think, Robert?
I haven't seen it. Can I see it?
Yeah, exactly. None of us have seen it.
Oh, none of us have seen it. Right.
What, the cover for this book?
Yeah, speaking of holidays, this is like Christmas morning or something.
Yeah, well, we'll have it out there for Thanksgiving. I'd like to think that as everybody is sitting around, everybody's gone home and they're sitting underneath the light and they're having some quiet time, drinking their wine and eating their lamb, that maybe they got this book in their hand curled up. But it's going to be a good one. But, there's something else. Now, Robert, I got to ask you a question.
Go on.
The last time I was in England, I was there in 2000, January 2017, and everybody was giving us condolences over Trump getting being president. I was shocked. It was like, yeah, I know. Would you like a free piece of pie to feel better? I don't think anybody did that.
We're not exactly exemplary ourselves at the moment.
But I stayed at a Airbnb type thing where I was up on the 11th floor of some apartment building. And
is this in London?
I loved that place. I went down and they had street vending going on the weekend. Just the whole street just filled up with chairs. I mean, not chairs,
Yeah,
but
we do a lot
tables.
of that.
People selling stuff. I loved it. It was fun. But so, what's the view on American politics right now? Are you guys still paying attention, or have you got so tired of us?
I don't think it's that we've got tired of it. I think, we have had such a sort of shitstorm of our own. We're on
Really?
to
But she was such a
third,
cute prime minister.
well, we're on to our third prime minister in a matter of weeks. I mean, the previous one who, let's bear in mind when she was growing up, she was anti-monarchist. She met the Queen, who appointed her prime minister, and within days the Queen was dead. I mean, I think you can sort of join the dots here quite easily. Her job was done. She's sunk the economy, and the country is just sort of spiraling round the drain at the moment. So the combination of that. And certainly the perspective of Joe Biden is Sleepy Joe. Is he going to do anything? What does he actually do? I think a lot of people here in Britain, if you ask them what the name of the president is, they'd have to think about it. Probably in the same way that I mean, the president doesn't even know the name of our prime minister. He was getting the Rishi Sunak's name wrong. So I imagine the number of Americans who know who our prime minister is probably 1 in 200, 1 in 500.
It's not a great sign when the gentleman who made both The Thick of It and Veep, where both of his shows are lining up too closely with reality. The Thick of It is one of my favorite shows because it's just one of, if y'all haven't seen it, it is a British show that will kind of teach you something about parliamentary politics if you watch it enough times.
I mean,
But it's
you're
so
talking about
cool.
Amanda Iannucci, and
Yeah.
just as an aside, I used to go to writers' meetings at the BBC. They had a sort of open comedy. There was a comedy show on BBC Radio 4 called Weekending, and actually the double meaning of it took me years to realise. But they opened the writers' room to anyone, so you could just go along on a weekend. And Armando wasn't the script editor then, but the script, the guidance, the written guidance, was written by him. So. And Peter Capaldi, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Robin. Peter Capaldi, absolutely excellent. Malcolm Tucker. So, my path almost crossed with Armando Iannucci's, 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
There's a short story I wrote where, and nobody except like my friends who have seen the show or people who know the show, but I'm always like, I don't know if it'll ever get an audiobook version, but Roger Allam needs to narrate it because I didn't write it with his voice in mind. I wrote it with his character's voice from The Thick of It. Peter Mannion's just frustrated, like trying to remain composed voice as you write it. But yeah, no, it's odd when things from that show seem to line up with what's going on now, and then things from Veep are lining up with going on in our politics, and this line between satire and reality, it's not only blurred, I think it's been smeared. Like I can't tell where it was anymore.
And I've worked in government, and it was a very knowing satire, even 20 years ago, or when it didn't come out 20 years ago, but that's when I was working in government 10, 20 years ago. The sort of mores and the atmosphere of it were, it was a satire of a real thing, and now reality and the satire have merged. It is a very strange time we live in. I mean, I hope that your Biden presidency is utterly uneventful. That's probably the best thing that I can wish for you after the previous incumbent.
We're looking for it to be uneventful, but you know what? I mean, what do you guys got? I saw a lot of commentary about just how handsome Sunak was. How do you pronounce his name?
Sunak, Rishi Sunak.
Okay. Sunak, and then Macron, the French guy.
Oh, Macron, Emmanuel Macron.
I mean, well, we have politicians that look like Trump.
Yeah, that's not.
You just got to admit, Europe's got a better handle on getting handsome men to run for office.
They've probably got 30 odd years on Biden and Trump, though. I mean, that's the other thing. I've got nothing against people with a lot of experience under their belt, but don't they need afternoon naps?
Well, you guys had Boris.
Well, Boris wasn't old; he was just mad. You know, we're well into diversity here. We've had the female prime minister. We've now got a non-white prime minister, and we've had the crazy one. You know, we'll do every kind of diversity. The next one will probably have an odd number of limbs.
I mean, if we're going to talk good-looking world leaders, I mean, I feel like it's, as someone whose city is frequently confused with Canada's city, you know, Canada's got a handsome man in charge. I'll say that.
There is a wonderful conspiracy theory that his father was Fidel Castro. Have you heard this?
Yes, I have heard. I have heard it mainly through a grapevine filter, but yes, I have heard that there is.
Yeah, and you can find photos where it's
I
oddly
thought that was Ted
coincidental.
Cruz whose daddy killed Castro.
Well, if you were to follow the conspiracy theories, then Ted Cruz's father killed Trudeau's real father, who was Castro. Is that how it works?
Yeah. I just think that actually Ted Cruz is Castro when he got out of the Rejuve clinic.
Huh.
And that is my official position as the great and wonderful Q. You may all quote me now.
It all makes sense. Your Q. B cubed press. B cubed press.
Oh, yeah.
It all makes sense. It's all lining up.
You've been outed.
I did it myself. Hey, you know what the beautiful
This is
part
funny,
is? I
right?
got my hoodie on today.
Oh, you are Q.
Yeah, so let's go. Remember, if you're in Pennsylvania, vote. And I'm gonna say vote for somebody from Pennsylvania. Not New Jersey. You know, you remember, I mean, I'd be running those Picante salsa commercials again.
Oh,
You remember
God.
the cowboys around the fire and they're feeding them some salsa for their chips and stuff. And they mentioned that this stuff is made in New York City or New Jersey. I can't remember which, but
I
they're
think
all
it's New York City. As a child of the 90s, I
bummer.
grew up with those commercials. Suddenly, I want to put on some Nirvana and watch Nickelodeon.
You know, when you said cowboys around a fire, I just couldn't help but think of Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. What? Speaking of the fart scene in Blazing Saddle, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know, she doesn't even live in her district down in Georgia. Turns out in Georgia, you don't have to live in the district you're running to elect. It is an amazing state.
Well, we have that here. To be a member of parliament, you don't have to live in your constituency. Although,
Nice to
you
know
know,
that we're good
Yeah.
bedfellows then.
I mean, our constituencies are smaller, so you know, if you live in one side of the country and stand in the other side of the country, it's just a short car ride for you Americans, I'm sure.
And you do have a slightly different version of democracy. But hey, as we're entering into our last 15 minutes, I want to remind you all, each of these wonderful gentlemen here has contributed a story into a book we call Holiday Leftovers. And I tell you, it is going to be a hoot. They don't know. They only know how to judge their own story, but I can say I've read every one of their stories. And I've never had a set of stories come in for an anthology that required less editing. Fully half of the stories as they came in, I looked at them and I said, oh, hey, yeah, check out my suspenders today. I knew Robert was going to be here.
Very nice.
Less than half of them took any editing and all. And the other one, it was like, are you sure that comma belongs there? I mean, it was just incredibly well-crafted work that I was dealing with on this, and I've just got to say kudos to you writers on this one. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Now, hearing the descriptions of your all stories, I am excited to read this. I really want to get into that.
yeah.
Oh,
Now,
Bob,
yes.
Robert and I signed in late. We never had a chance to answer your question about like our latest project.
Oh yeah, I know you didn't, and I was contemplating letting you answer that question. But the beautiful thing is, we don't have a show coming up next. And so, like I do when I got David and Jim on, they're two really popular guys to be on the show sometimes. At about 10:15, I'll ask the audience over there, says, hey, should I tell them what time it is? And the answer is always no. But as we're talking about this, we'll start with you, Michael, since you did bring it up. Holiday season is coming, and nothing more critical for publishers and writers is to have somebody buy their book to give it to somebody else for Christmas with their personal endorsement. So what do you got out there that you would want to pump for that purpose of endorsing?
I'll choose one project because we all love comedy, right? You know, this is a big comedy venue. My short story, Hello, I Am, is now currently in the latest issue of Sci-Fi Lampoon. And it's what's known as a feg hoot. Probably the most famous one was by Isaac Asimov, where you tell what seems to be some weird little story, but you realize it's all setting you up for a horrible pun at the end, which might be like the lyrics of a song, just twisted around with different words that remind you of that. And that's sort of what I did with mine, too. I had a lot of fun with it. It's called Hello, I Am, and the latest issue of Sci-Fi Lampoon. So if you're into comedy, check it out.
Thank you.
I shall have to look for that because remember I was talking with John about the Northwest Society of Professional Journalism misspelling my name the year I took first place, and the category that I competed in was humor, humorous essays type stuff. God, that was so. I will have to go look at that because I don't write much anymore, but every now and then I kind of get the sense I want to. Now, Robert, now that I've got in a cheap personal plug, and I'd like to. Now, this is science fiction anthologies, you say?
Yeah, I mean, I write speculative
Lampoon.
fiction. So Lampoon.
Okay. Now, Robert, what do you got coming out or out that you think that would be the perfect holiday gift?
Yeah, I mean, I was just sort of looking because I write. What I tend to find I do, I work on a novel or two, or I'm working on a novel, but I get distracted by long short stories, and then I get distracted from the long short stories with shorter short stories, and I end up having a lot of stuff out there, but it tends to be, you know, flash fiction. So I just had a look, a couple of things that have actually made it into solid real books that you can pick up off the shelf and buy. I've got a couple of stories. One is in an anthology called Wayward and Upward, and that's from Off Topic Publishing. And I'm just trying to see whether it is actually published yet, but it's coming out very shortly. It's you can pre-order it from Wayward and Upward, from offtopicpublishing.com. And this is a slightly odd anthology in that writers and artists were given an album of music, or there is an existing album of music called Wayward and Upward, and you had to match stories to the music, or at the very least to the titles. So my story I know it as The Watcher, but it's in there as Minerva Rising, I think, or Minerva Revealed. And it's not a comedy, it's a slightly off-kilter science fiction about a woman living her life backwards. And the sort of combination of her going through time backwards, meeting people going forwards. It's hopefully as odd as it sounds. The other one I'll pick up on is called Strange. It's in an anthology called Strangely Funny 9. It's published by Mystery and Horror LLC. I think on that one there isn't an ebook available. It's only available as a hard copy. I know it's out because I've received my complimentary copy of that. And the title of the story is taken from the I think it's the Mayan Book of the Dead, or slightly twisted, and it's called "And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead, That and T-shirt Sales." And it's about the four horsemen of the apocalypse who put the band back together and end up performing at Red Rocks. Because that's really what the four horsemen of the apocalypse were. They were a rock band all along.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
Sounds like them and the demons from Michael's story would get along just great.
Absolutely.
sometimes someday when I get really crazy enough, I'm just going to say, I'm going to put out one called Alternative Humor. And just loose the dogs of war. You know, you're I wondered, do you know a Liam Hogan or Paula Hammond, a couple other writers we got over there in your area?
The names ring a faint bell, but I mean, maybe I've seen them on the submissions grinder as, having had submissions accepted, but not.
I figure you might have met, because the thing is, I've got a fair number of writers that are in the British Isles, and everywhere from Scottish Lord to a Paula, who just keeps popping out incredible stories. And I have yet to have any of them on here, but now that I've got you, I know it's possible.
Agent Provocateur Robert.
I can't be your first Brit, surely.
Yeah, we might be able to. We might do a British edition. But guys, as we close in on the end of it, I will remind at least as many of the people here who are as interested, is that there is a critical election coming. Okay, we just put out a book, #1 new release. Selling well. I'm loving it, every minute of it. And it was post-Roe alternatives. And one of the authors that's in that book and this one is Karen G. Anderson, who was supposed to be with us this morning, but isn't. But she is in so many places I can understand her absence. But that book, I will tell you, is indeed, it was the last book I was getting ready to promote. And it is a book that you can only, just a second. I'm terrible. I go to promote a book and I don't have it in front of me.
I assumed it was an Amazon delivery.
They just now showed up at the door. They're very prompt.
Okay, who's got the doorbell sound effect? But here it is. Just a second. I got all three of you. I click in here. Okay, I'm back. Okay, great. This is the book, and I got. It's called Post-Roe Alternatives: Fighting Back.
Nice cover.
Oh, thank you. I had this incredible cover design, this wonderful cover design. I loved it. It was a wheat field in Kansas. And my authors talked me out of it. You know, if there's one thing, if you've got a small press publisher who thinks he knows everything, probably need a new small press publisher. Because I find the best books I ever put out are the ones where I listen to my co-editors and my writers. And that's a fact. Because you guys will notice, whenever I send you emails, I always blind copy, because I had writers complain, don't share my email address with all these other writers. And my God, you know, back in the day before, when I would just send a bulk email to all my writers, some of the best feedback, crossplay back and forth as they got to know each other and talk was amazing, and it made for some incredible improvements, incredible feedback on titles and covers. But yeah, this one was fun, and I admit I did do it myself, but that's not the biggest thing. But I just reminding you guys, you got to get out and vote. I don't care if you live in Pennsylvania, make sure you vote for somebody from Pennsylvania. You know, ask yourself, because here's something that you guys this may resonate with you or may not, but they talk about choice as if it's only about abortion. And I will tell you, choice is not just about abortion. As the rights that we have are stripped away, they're stripping away our choice over who we love, who we can get married to, you know, our choice as to whether or not we're going to have schools that teach American history, or like in Florida, that don't say gay. You can't remind people that we ever owned slaves in this country. You know, just the choice is important. Teller decision on gun control came out, and they said cities no longer have a choice as to whether or not to ban people walking around the streets with handguns. Well, good God, guys, ever watch Wyatt Earp? You know, when they said too many people are getting killed, you can't wear your guns to town, leave them at home or check them in when you get to town. Controlling people's access to firearms and where they carry them is not a new concept. It was only in the recent Supreme Court just rulings where that became that that your safety of walking down the street, the safety of your child when you send them to school, is no longer a choice for the citizens, because it's a choice of the corporate gun market. So I'm just going to say, vote because it matters. Vote because the choice you're voting for is not just abortion rights. It's a choice for who you get to love. It's whether or not there will ever be another set of elections. Now, has anybody actually getting feedback? You know, we have the election deniers, and I guess there's over 300 of them running. Is there been any discussion in your states or your locations about that being important or not?
Oh yeah, it's in all the advertisements in Colorado where I now live. A lot of the Democrats point that out about, you know, who they're running against, and yeah, it's a big issue, along with abortion.
Lou Berger lives down in your country.
I'm relatively new here, so I don't really know the politics all that well.
Oh no, Lou is a wonderful editor and writer. He's edited twice for me, and just really good. So I didn't know if you're going to go to Mile High Con.
I'd like to. I haven't been there yet. Yeah.
Well, it's coming up soon, I believe.
I tried to get in 2 years ago. I wanted to get a table to sell some books, but you know, there's a lot of people that want to do that.
Oh yeah, I'm going to try and get in next year.
We have election denial is also a thing here as well. Jamie Herrera Butler was our congressional representative here, but they lost in the primary to a pretty right-leaning guy named Joe Kent. And yeah, election denial is a large part of his campaign as well as arresting Fauci for murder. That's like a on the trail message that he has.
You got one of the real MAGA. I mean, you know
yeah, he's a delight.
I believe you've heard the old term "rhino Republican" in name only. You know, that used to apply to centrist Republicans. These days, if I took a picture of your average fascist They're the rhinos now. They call themselves Republicans, but they're just fascists. They want autonomy. They want total control. They want to make sure elections, like I can't remember what state it is, but the guy came out. Oh, it was in Pennsylvania. The governor said, if I win this election, there'll never be a Democrat will never win another election in this state. And the Secretary of State in one of their states said that. Yes, Michael.
Oh, I was responding to a text that had somebody had a little symbol like this up in the text.
Did you used to write for Star Trek?
Not me, no.
It took me forever to be able to do this.
Oh yeah.
I'm not proud to say it. I had to train my hand to do it.
I saw Leonard Nimoy live at Syracuse University when he was promoting Star Trek 3, and he was telling the whole story about that, how he basically was in a synagogue as a little boy. He was closing his eyes while a prayer was being done, and he looked up, and the rabbi was like doing this with his hands for the prayer, which is supposed to symbolize the letters of God, I guess, in Hebrew.
I did not know that.
That's the whole secret behind the whole symbol. That's where it came from, Judaism.
Oh my gosh.
Now
Well, Rob,
really-
I had a quick question I wanted to ask before we sign off, because I noticed the three of us are from different countries. How many different countries are represented in Holiday Leftovers?
Not as many as normal. I think our maximum we've ever had is like 14.
Wow.
And that, but we are the places we oddly enough, I get almost as many sales from Africa as I do from Europe. We have bought stories, I know, from Hungary. One of the stories we have in here is from Hungary. And I think we got a Hungarian, couple from Great Britain, various places. Canada, I know. We don't have any South American. The only South American guy we really ever sell regularly is his family is Italian. He lives in South America, Bondoni.
Yeah, Gustavo Bondoni. I know him, yeah.
Yeah, he's an excellent writer. We love having him in there, but so far, yeah. So when it comes down to it, if you want to see probably Alternative Apocalypse was incredibly international. Of course, we had over 900 submissions. And so here it's like, what time is it over where you're at, Robert?
Oh, it's almost dinner time. It's 6:05 in the evening here.
Dinner time, you know.
It's and it's Guy Fawkes weekend as well. I don't know whether you're aware.
Oh, Guy Fawkes, yeah.
The bonfires.
Oh,
Bonfire. So I was going to say earlier, I didn't know whether you could hear. It's probably not being picked up on the microphone, but there's lots of fireworks going on outside.
can I have a penny for the guy, please?
Absolutely. Well, probably a fiver
So
now.
was
But,
Guy Fawkes a good guy or a bad guy?
well, it depends which side of that Catholic Protestant sort of divide you're on, and probably the monarchy anti-monarchists. But actually, I only discovered today, or was it yesterday, that Guy Fawkes killed himself by jumping off the gallows and breaking his neck before they could hang him. He was due to be hanged, drawn, and quartered, and he sort of preempted the whole thing. But
That's kind of a baller move. All that's missing is to give them the old double bird before you do it and then jump
Yeah,
off. I kind of like that.
Absolutely. I was also going to say quickly that this has caught me out in submitting stories to American publications before, because yours is not the only holiday-themed short story anthology that's ever been published. The meaning of holiday in Britain is distinctly different to what it means in America. To us, what you call vacation, we call holiday. So I started off just writing stories or submitting a story about a holiday, and of course realizing that it has a distinctly different meaning. What you call holiday. Sorry.
Room with a View, they went on holiday, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, because it took a moment when I was reading all of the submissions that says, why is somebody telling me about their trip to Georgia? You know, and then when I got figured it out, there are actually I set aside a few spots. So if you want to know why you're seeing vacation stories in leftovers,
Yeah.
is because we're trying to give some respect for the people who took us literally when we said alternative holidays.
Well, speculative fiction is, I think, of all the genres, I think that's the one that has the most like international appeal and seems to pull the most international authors. Like I listen to a lot of fiction podcasts, and like Beneath Ceaseless Skies and Podcastle and Pseudopod. So many of the author bios that they give at the beginning of each episode now, they're from places outside the U.S. There's an international audience and an international market for speculative fiction that I think just seems to outweigh all the other genres.
Oh, it is great. For example, now one thing you should know this, Robert. I after about my second book, I said, why would I correct British grammar to American grammar? And so I've told my proofreaders, because one of my best proofreaders is a London lawyer or barrister. I said, look, I don't want to fix the spelling of color, or I don't want to change, leave the British words British, or the Canadians, which are kind of like they're half British. Let it be. Do not correct them. And I've never felt bad at all, because it adds a sense of flavor to the books.
Yeah, I think sort of 3 or 4 years ago, you used to get more guidelines saying British spelling or American spelling. I've seen less of that over the last couple of years, thinking about it.
I just love the fact that basically, I think if I recall my history correctly, the difference between American and British spelling is the fact that American printers were cheap bastards and didn't want to use, that many lead, printing blocks for their
It
printing
wouldn't
presses.
surprise me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just love that the whole difference just came out of, Ben Franklin or somebody being like, it's
But I
not
mean,
worth my time.
I will point out that aluminum, because obviously the rest of the planet calls it aluminium, it was, I think, a misprint by the guy trying to market it. And rather than kind of correcting it, he went, damn it, we're going to call it aluminum here. And he got it to stuck. It's wonderful chutzpah on his part.
Just wanted to say I had no choice in this matter. I was a staff editor at the Institute of Electronics Engineers for 24 years, and we were forced to change all the British spellings into American spellings for all 24 years that I was there. Thousands of submissions, yeah.
You're the Terminator.
Yeah, I was. We all were in my department.
Yeah.
That's all fun stuff. Hey, and I would be remiss if I didn't give one last plug. Alternative, post-row alternatives, the one I held the cover up on, the one about choice. It has got in it a 10,000 word novelette by Adam Troy Castro. And I'm being blunt here. It is one of the best stories we've ever published. And so any of you guys, as you're plowing through the rest of your next year and you're start getting those Hugo emails, remember, Adam Troy Castro, while he was wrote us just possibly the best story that I've ever published, and he put it in post-row alternatives. So if you're an Adam Troy Castro fan, go buy a copy because you'll enjoy it. He is an incredible writer. And I also made a comment. Also, you can't patent an element. Aluminum is an element. Aluminum is an Alcoa trademark. Ah, okay.
Aluminium and aluminum.
That's about the spelling thing. Yeah. I just remember the only way I like that. Yeah, is what was it? The Enterprise traded transparent aluminum
Transparent aluminum, yeah.
for some big plexiglass sheets in one of the Star Trek movies.
My hometown is Messina, New York, on the border to Canada, and that's where the Alcoa plant is. They still have one pot running up there.
Sweet. You gotta like it. Yeah, what I really like is somebody trying to write historical novels or something, and they'll use tinfoil in the 30s. Oh, aluminum wasn't. Yeah, never mind. Long story. Nerdville.
Sometimes it's hard to do research if you're writing something for a historical period or from a different cultural perspective, but it's worth it. But then it gets really frustrating because sometimes, like I wrote a story once that had the term for, instead of like making coffee, it was like a 1920 set story, so they're putting coffee on the boil, and the editor was like, what is that? And I'm like, they're making coffee, and I don't want, and we debated changing it back. I'm like, no, it has to have that voice to it.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna get us out of here because, yeah, we could go on and on about that one. But I appreciate each and every one of you coming today, John Wolf, for your stories. God, I got your stories mixed up. I was about to say heebie-jeebies.
Yep, that's me.
Oh, that was you.
Yep.
Oh, just right. And then
just
Booty.
A story about a gal on Halloween.
Robert, I love Booty. And Michael, I can't remember your story's name.
Actually, mine was Booty.
Yeah, mine was Charles Edward Tuckett.
Ah, okay. And that's why I was brain got rid of the story that should have associated with you, and that's why there's
me some time to remember it.
You. Hey, it's fun. I'm old. I forget things, but here's the deal. But thank you all, people of America. Get out and vote, and vote for good candidates. Vote for candidates who believe in democracy, and that's the best thing I can say. And thanks, guys. I appreciate you all being here.
Thank you. And Robert, I hope you get a general election called yourself. So,
indeed, yes.
Yeah, it would be fun.